Hello and welcome to the Cardiac Cats YouTube channel. I'm your host, Jacob Shorba, and today we're going to be talking about some breaking news we just got within the last hour that the Jaguars are moving on from two key pieces in their secondary, Darious Williams and Rayshawn Jenkins. So I'm going to break this down for you guys, talk about how this changes the cap, talk about how these players performed, was it smart, what could be some issues, and then really what this might change for the team. So that's what we're going to get into. But I planned to do these separately originally, but obviously moves came really close together. Not really a point in separating the two videos because, well, I just have to be ignoring something that's breaking news while we're talking about it. And it gets kind of weird. I think they kind of go together. So I'm going to be talking about these both. But one thing I want to make clear to start, this is probably the last move that we see on defense before free agency, other than obviously something happening with Josh Allen. We know that's going to take place. But there are not more players that I think make sense to cut on defense. You got a Luakon, probably the only air contract worth any value that you could get savings on the defensive side of the ball. The closest you get to that outside of it is cutting like Andre Cisco. And it's not really an option, right? So I think this is where we're going to stop on defense. We're not going to see much more. But talking about cap savings, this is an important part of it, right? The last video, when we talked about Fadakasi, we said that it was important to note that there's cap savings during 2 seasons. Not just one, but 2. Okay, so you see here, this number is what they save in 2024. You go to 2025, this number up here is what they save, because this is all dead cap that was going over 2025 and the rest of the void years that is now gone and is against the cap in 2024. So what you get is you get what the player was effectively going to earn for 2024, which is like $8 million, minus this dead cap, and that's how you get the savings from this year. And then the dead cap, whatever amount that is how much more you're saving the next year. So you can see that when I go up here, 2 numbers change, both get bigger. That's because you're saving money both years. Same thing goes with Rayshawn Jenkins, okay? So bottom number, about $5 million. That's what they save in 2024. You move to 2025, save nearly $4 million. So this is $9 million over 2 years. That's the effective decision. So the question they're asking themselves is essentially, is Rayshawn Jenkins worth $9 million this year? And the answer is no. I mean, there's not really much of a conversation about that. Just to kind of look at what he's done and to consider the whole situation, right? He had some huge moments in 2022. I don't want to leave that out of this completely, right? The issue is that you get paid for what you're going to do, not what you've done. And we've talked about that before on this channel. You've probably heard it from me before. And for Rayshawn Jenkins, you look at how he performed this year, very hit or miss, right? Like you've got 35, 70s. I mean, you could see it watching him on the field. There were moments where he would be really good. There were moments where he'd be really bad. It was very inconsistent. The other factor in this, it's not just that we saved $9 million, right? It's that you have a player behind him in Antonio Johnson that has played a very similar kind of role to what Rayshawn Jenkins has throughout his career. So I want to show you what I mean by this, okay? Let's pull up Antonio Johnson. Apologize, I didn't have this up before the video. But we'll look at 2022. We're going to look at snaps by position. So you got a lot of snaps in the slot. That's fine. You also have a lot in the box and a lot in free safety, playing really all over the place. Go to Rayshawn Jenkins. A lot more in the box, right? But very much split. He's not at one position. That's the point I want to get to. Moving all around. A guy who is supposed to be a jack of all trades when it comes to the secondary. He can play free. He can play strong. He can play in the slot. Antonio Johnson did the same thing in college. And we saw him play with the Jaguars as a slot cornerback this year because that was the immediate need. But it's important to note that when Antonio Johnson was drafted, when they talked about him, when they asked, what do you see Antonio Johnson as in an NFL environment? They said he is a safety, not that he is a slot cornerback. So you have a guy who costs basically a tenth of what Rayshawn Jenkins does, and the way he performed this year was really, really good. If you didn't see on the field, he was really damn good. Okay, so we'll go to 2023. Just going to look at what he did in a limited amount of time. He had 2 interceptions on 172 snaps. You saw him start playing a lot more late in the season. Didn't have any terrible performances, right? I mean, obviously you can improve on this, but overall, over the course of the season, he was a positive in everything he did. And it's not just talking about PFF, but it's talking about what you saw on the field. Antonio Johnson, he's a steal. He was a steal in the 5th round, and now he is the guy that should logically start for this team. So for Rayshawn Jenkins, honestly, as much as we love what he did for the Jaguars, it's pretty clear this was not the best move for them. Now, going to Darious Williams. Talk about him. Very different story here, okay? So the issue for me, it's not that Darious Williams is going to be gone, right? Like, I understand that. I know why they're going to do that. And we've talked about it before, right? Darious Williams is a slot corner, or sorry, not a slot cornerback. He's a zone cornerback. He plays zone coverage at a high level. He is not a man-to-man guy. Can he do it? Sure. Is he as good? No. For example, in 2023, Darious Williams was the 5th ranked zone cornerback in the league per PFF. He was also the 25th ranked man cornerback in the league per PFF. Very big difference between how he performed, right? So this all has to be taken into account. When you're running a press coverage scheme, a lot of man-to-man, you're going to need a different guy for the job. So I understand why they're going to make changes, right? Why Darious Williams is not going to be the starter. What I don't understand, and this is assuming that we don't get some kind of breaking news that he's actually getting traded. Why are you not able to find a partner for Darious Williams? That's what I don't get. And people try to argue with that, saying, well, he's 31 years old. He's an older player. He's going to be on the decline. Here's the thing. The contract that Darious Williams is under right now, this one right here, he took a pay cut to sign that. It is extremely important that we understand that. He took a pay cut to come to Jacksonville. And so what I'm saying is that his market value in 2022, when he signed with this team, was higher than the contract that he signed with the team that it would still be in effect if you traded him. You look at his performance as well. Go this last year. One of his best years as a cornerback, best coverage grade that he's ever had. And you can see it on the field when you watch him. The closest year to compare it to was 2024, where he had 5 interceptions, 11 pass breakups, very similar stats, right? Just a little bit better. In 2021, he took a downturn, and then that's when he hit the market, okay? That's very important to understand because we're talking about a player who took a pay cut from where his market was and then became a better player on a different team. So, in my eyes, the way I see this, especially considering that a team can bring him on for a year and let him hit the market and get a comp pick, the contract that he's signed under right now should absolutely be worth quite a bit less than what he's going to get paid on the market. I mean, just being straight, like I would be shocked if he doesn't earn a very similar number or a higher number of this. And if that's the case, I feel bad for him because he has earned a much larger contract with the way he's played. He just needs to play in the right scheme. And so I look at teams like the Lions and the 49ers, teams that run a lot of zone coverage, that have clear needs in the secondary, and they're competitors. They're teams that want to win right now. Both of them were very close to winning, okay? They're not far off. Why would they not take a deal like this? Why do you not call them? Why do you not figure something out? Because you don't get a comp pick. You don't get anything for him because you release him. You can't tell me you won't even get a 7th rounder if you trade him somewhere just to avoid hitting the market. Like, there's no logic there to me, okay? That's my gripe, right? I understand why we're moving on. I don't understand the logic behind how we did it. That is my concern, because I've talked about on this channel how I thought you could legitimately get a 3rd round pick for him. Could that have been too high? Yes, absolutely. I could be far off on that. But you sure as heck should have got something. No reason for it. So that's my issue with this move. But look, it is a move that needed to be made. They need a new cornerback. They need someone who's going to fit the scheme. They will upgrade when you consider the environment that Darious Williams would have had to be in to play man coverage versus whoever they bring in. It will likely be better. And so my issue, like I said, is how you went about it. So as far as cap savings, Jacksonville currently sits around $49 million, and they have a lot more money that they can save. I think players to watch, you're definitely going to be looking at the offensive side of the ball, but you've got Josh Allen. We're going to have the news on him very soon here. In fact, we might already have it for all I know. I have not been able to look at Twitter while recording this, and there's a lot of rumbling around that. You have Calvin Ridley as well. If Josh Allen gets extended, well, Ridley could get tagged. So we don't know about that yet. But I think as far as cuts, players who could walk, I'd be watching very closely with Cam Robinson. I'd be looking at that contract. They might be renegotiating. I think Brandon Scherf is another one. They're just not a justifiable contract, right? And same thing here where it's over 2 years, right? $9 million, then $7 million. So there's a lot of money you can save there. The final one, Zay Jones. I think they keep him, but it is possible that they can move on from him, especially regarding what happens to Calvin Ridley, because if they get Ridley back, they might want to upgrade there. So we're going to have to see what happens. But you save a lot of money with these moves. Darious Williams is a lot of money this year, right? You can't ignore that. But at the same time, you know, it's the way you go about it. That's my issue. I think there was so much more you could have done with that just ended up not happening for whatever reason. So you guys give me your thoughts. You know, I know some people kind of disagree with the idea that he was tradable. I get some of the reasons. I just think at the end of the day, he's a better player than what he was when he came here. He came here on a pay cut. How do you not have that be a tradable contract? But just my thoughts, because I think he's got a couple more really good years in him. But we'll see. So I hope you guys enjoyed. You will definitely be hearing from me again today once we get news on Josh Allen and everything else going on regarding the Jaguars. But I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you think. That's all I've got for you. And finally, go Jags.